For those of you that were there, and some of you maybe just watched the video, we kicked off this year with the, I guess, theme, for lack of a better word, of this is our time. And we wanted to build on this. Living abundantly seemed to be the next progression in that. So that's kind of where we came to today. As we were thinking about this, as I was thinking about this, I reached out to a friend of mine that has spent literally her whole life, because her parents did this as well, and she has really been instrumental in providing a lot of information for me over the years, and I wanted to share a few things from her. Her name is Wendy, and she has spent her entire life in pursuit of being prepared. She teaches classes, she blogs, she videos, she farms, she cans, she freeze dries, she dehydrates, and she gets her kids involved with all of it. She has always lived by the motto that prepping should be done out of abundance, not out of doom and gloom. And I love that. She is literally one of the happiest people I've ever met. This woman is never in a bad mood. I mean, she's always such a happy person. No matter what her challenge is, she is always there looking for opportunities to turn that into growth. And I know you guys can hear me, I've got a big voice. She said to me, for years, when people would find out that she was into being prepared, one of their first typical responses was, well, if something happens, I'm coming to your house. How many people have heard that? Or if something happens, I know where I'm going. And she said she got all these responses, kind of along those lines. And she said that when she would hear those responses, at first she just kind of laughed it off. Okay, well, she says, if you come to my house, you better bring your own toilet paper. I don't share that. But she always said, we would be glad to have you. But she also said that those comments would make her sad. And she said that it seems like people want to trust others with their lives and their well-beings in case of a natural or a man-made disaster. So rather than leave your self-reliance or your preparedness to somebody else, she is suggesting that we take responsibility for that and plan out what our individual needs are, because it looks different for everybody. She even talked about people that she knew that said, hey, if something happens, I'm coming to your house. And she's like, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, suppose they really show up. I know this person's diabetic. Do I have things in my house that would be accommodating for this person? Well, that's not really her responsibility. The responsibility lies with ourselves. So here's some things that she has suggested. She said, first, we need to think. Use a computer or a simple piece of paper and list different scenarios in our area of things that could possibly happen. So in South Carolina, we know that it could be the occasional ice, the more occasional snow, flooding, power outages, unemployment. There are these types of things that we could face in South Carolina. And then you can create a sub-list under that if you want for you and your family, and what you will need to survive these different scenarios, blankets, clothing, and so forth. She said, now start with what you can do. Don't worry about what you can't do. Just start with what you can do. She said, always look for the things that you can do with the energy and the focus you do have. A little bit paves way for the bigger. 1% effort is better than 0% effort every time. So she mentioned generators. If you feel like you're gonna need a generator in your home, start a savings plan. You don't have to run out and put that generator on a credit card today, or whatever. Start a savings plan if you know that that's something that you're going to want to work towards. The second thing she said is take an inventory. Figure out exactly what you have. You don't necessarily need to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. You're probably going to be surprised with what you actually have on hand. The third thing is declutter. One of the first things we hear when people say, oh, I'm storing stuff is what? I don't have the space. Well, Sister Newland pointed out, you know what? If you needed it, you'd store it in the middle of your living room. So she suggests that we declutter. 9 times out of 10, you can find at least a closet that you can start your food preparation with. The fourth one, and I think this is so very important. She said, identify skills that you need or want to develop. Pick 1 or 2 skills that you've always been interested in learning. Maybe it's sewing, maybe it's soap making, maybe it's fishing. Whatever that skill is that you have always wanted to learn, choose it and start working towards acquiring that skill. There's a lot of free resources. YouTube is free. The library is free. The people in this room and in our state and in our communities are oftentimes free with their knowledge. So there's many ways for us to find out how to learn about something. And then she says, find somebody that you can possibly barter your skills with. You teach me this, I'll do this. And then she said that never think that you are stuck because you do not have money. Having a skill will be more valuable, could be much more important in a dire situation than all the gold in the world, because that can be your bartering. The goal is to become self-reliant as possible. When you do this, you become more confident. You feel better in your life. You feel more peace in your life. You feel more control in your life as you have these things. You know, it used to be way back when we heard this all the time from the church. And you know, I think it's funny when it first came out. It's like, get that 10-year supply, and then the second time it was like, well, let's do that 7-year. And it's like, come on, people, can we do 2? And then it dropped down to 1 year. And now you'll notice in the pamphlet that we ordered, guess what it is now that you start with? 3 months. The need hasn't changed, sisters. They're just saying, do it. Just do it. Did I see Sister Shively walk in? Sister Shively, come here, girlfriend. Sister Shively had something that we wanted her to share before I wrap up. So we're going to let Monica come down for just a moment. Monica, make sure you tell them where you're from.
Sorry, I'm really late today.
That's okay.
So I'm running around back there. I'm Monica. I grew up in Texas. My family moved to Idaho my senior year of high school. Super small town called Salmon, Idaho, if anyone knows what that is, where my husband was raised. And then we were married. We've been married for almost 6 years, and he's currently going to Sherman, the chiropractic school in Boiling Springs. So that has brought us here, and we love it, and we don't plan on going too far ever again, because we like the weather better. But the experience that I was sharing with them as we had a presidency meeting a few weeks ago is my sister-in-law gave me a call one Sunday afternoon, and she's like, we just had the best fast and testimony meeting. So this is a story through somebody, so y'all are aware. I can't say I take full credit for the experience, but she's like, I just had a really beautiful, empowering fast and testimony meeting at my ward today. And she lives in Idaho Falls, and she shared how a sister got up and she bore her testimony about how she had went to go get a pedicure, I think is what it was, with her sisters in visiting in Utah. And they're in the salon getting their pedicures and their manis and just kind of having a salon day. And all of a sudden the salon gets so quiet, super quiet. And they look around and they see the prophet walking in with his sweet wife. And she is there to get her hair done. And I guess he always goes with her to get her hair done. And so it's super quiet. So he takes that opportunity to introduce himself and kind of open the salon to some questions. And from what my sister-in-law said, what hit her the most, this lady was sharing some of the questions that were being asked during this fast and testimony meeting and being able to be in the same room as the prophet and that experience. But a mom had asked, a younger mom, my sister-in-law said the lady said she's probably in her 30s, had a few younger children, and she just looked at him and said, what should I be doing with my young children? The world is so scary, and there's so much contention and chaos and going on right now. Like, what is just one thing that I can really focus on right now to make me feel like I'm doing a better job as a mom? And he told her to get her food storage in order. And my sister-in-law, you know, this lady bears this experience that she had this on. She calls me, she's like, I'm a young mom. I don't have food storage. And she's like, I just was immediately prompted at that moment that, especially because I had children, that I needed to be prepared. And if that's what the prophet gave counsel to this young mom, that the first thing she needed to do as she left that salon to focus on was food storage, that it was going to be important for her too. So that's the experience that I shared with them.
Thank you.
So I hope it inspired y'all too.
Thank you. Sisters, James E. Fowle said, some have said, we have followed this counsel in the past and have never had to use our year's supply. So we have difficulty keeping this in mind as a major priority. Perhaps, Brother Fowle said, following this counsel could be the reason why they have not needed to use their reserves. God teaches us to be self-reliant and industrious, to plan ahead, to provide for possible hard times, to avoid obligations unless we are sure that we can handle them, and then to serve him with such devotion that he will be pleased to augment all of our own earnest efforts. And that's Marky Peterson. And finally, we can rest assured that if we have done all in our power to prepare for whatever lies ahead, that the Lord will then help us with whatever else we need. And that's Bruce R. McConkie. Sisters, I am grateful that you all are giving up some of your time today to come and listen to the advice of some of those that are going to be talking to us today. Our first speaker that we are going to have is Lindsay Flukinger, which we're really excited. Lindsay is going to be talking to us about a 3-month supply. After that, Danica Horseman is going to be talking with us about water storage. And then finally, we have Katie Christofferson about where to store. And then we'll have Mary Beth for just a couple minutes after that. And so we are going to go according to that plan. So, Miss Lindsay.
Good morning, sisters. It's so exciting to be here. I really enjoyed that message that Sister Tanner just shared with us, and also that Monica just shared. That is just, I love that so much. And something that I have also been feeling prompted to work on more. So I am talking about our 3-month supply. And this is something that my family has really been working on over the last 2 years, really since the pandemic hit. And we're just gonna dive into this. Of course, I'm feeling a little intimidated because I'm seeing Sister Harmon and Sister Harper and all the people who taught me when I was in Young Women that I know already know this, but hopefully I can put to use the things that I've learned from their examples. All right, so the first thing is, what is it? What is a 3-month supply? So I always like to start with the what, why, and how. And so we're gonna start by talking about what it's not. Okay, so it's not your basic staples. It's not special packaged food like the number 10 cans or food that might have the oxygen packets in it or freeze-dried or anything like that. This is not our long-term storage or even a backup plan, okay? Great, so what is it if it's not that? Okay, I like to look at a 3-month supply as a well-stocked pantry, a place that I can look and I can shop in my house and not have to go to the store for certain items each and every week or multiple times in a week. So these are things that you're gonna find in your normal diets and things that you're eating every single day, that your kids enjoy, that you enjoy. Really just what are you getting in your grocery run and what are the meals that you like to rotate through. So again, directly from the grocery store, regularly rotate, and it should last for 3 months. That seems pretty simple. Hopefully that doesn't sound too intimidating. All right, so why it's important. So I came up with 4 reasons why I think it's important, and also researched a few. And the first one was because it saves time. So I don't know about you guys, but my husband and I were in this kind of routine of running back and forth to the grocery store for anything we needed. It was vanilla, we were out of eggs, we were out of cheese, or even sugar. We would be out of things constantly. And I was the type of homemaker that literally would wait till our pantry was almost bare before I would go. Like, oh, I gotta go and like stock this back up, or whatever. And so now we've been in such a great routine where there's not that running back and forth. I don't have time for that during the week. And then it's a once a week stock for perishable items like dairy, fruits, and vegetables. Anything that's gonna go bad within a week, or what you're gonna be just doing your basic grocery shopping for. And then it saves time, and what I've found is I will do a once a month stock for larger items. Like if I'm buying something in bulk from Costco or Sam's. I actually brought an example that I'm going to show you guys in just a second. Of course, this is the one that I love the most, is it saves money. So if you run out of an item without a 3-month supply, you typically would buy it from the store at whatever price is listed. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but groceries are not cheap. They have just exponentially gone up. For about a month, I think it was last month, so my husband and I live in the Greenville 2nd Ward, we could not find chicken anywhere. Like it was either like the frozen bags, and we like to kind of buy fresh chicken. We went to everywhere and it was not available. So, and you know, I'm sure like where it was, if it was available at the store that we did not go to, it was probably pretty astronomically priced. So you're buying your food before you need it, and you can wait to buy the food item for when it's on sale at a lower price. So this is what I was going to show you guys. We talked about a 3-month supply being items that you regularly rotate through, and my 4-year-old has to eat these every day. He just is obsessed. So I get these from Costco, but you can see, and I actually have 3 of these in my pantry now. So I left one behind, but this one's open, it's almost empty, so this one would go in the front of my pantry with the other 2 behind it, and I try to always keep 3 levels of this particular item in our pantry so that when this one's running low, or when it's done, this one goes out and this one moves forward. So old food is at the top, whatever you've been using, and whatever you haven't opened, you would rotate through. So this is my 3-month supply, mine is the one that's at home. Okay. Another reason was peace of mind. And I just love the saying that if you're prepared, you will not fear. And I really learned to believe this over the last couple of years with so much uncertainty and so much turmoil, and not being sure if someone's gonna be sick or anything like that, or if we're going to be shut in for a while and things like that. And emergencies do happen. So from illnesses to major car repairs to job loss, or even a disruption in the food supply chain, you'll always have that 3-month supply of food items. And it's things that your family enjoys. It's not just rice and beans and dehydrated food. These are like the things that you enjoy eating. We're not going to get into this, but I did want to just touch on the fact that not only is the 3-month supply just great thing to have on hand, but should you have to use it to supplement with your long term, it just helps enhance it, because again, it's foods that you enjoy that you can pair with longer term. So how to create and maintain. My family started from baby steps. So to backtrack just a little bit, I was definitely raised where my parents were so good about having a long-term supply. We always had like at least a 5-year supply. It was cases of food, it was number 10 cans, it was the huge bags of flour and things like that. But we didn't do really well with a 3-month supply. So when my family started out with this, it was literally just buying a couple extra cans of soup, or a couple extra cans of beans. When things were on sale, we would buy one extra. And eventually now I look at where everything has built up to, and I just feel so secure and so blessed at the abundance we have. And this has like been over a 2-year time. So planning is key, and we have some tools for you guys that are actually, you have this sheet at your table. If you guys want to look for that, and this is just a tool to help you meal plan. I love meal planning, and one of the best ways to get prepared and to start on your short-term or your 3-month supply is to plan out your meals in advance or use a rotating meal plan. I was gonna throw up this document that I keep. I don't keep like a spreadsheet, but I keep a running Google document with meals that my family likes. I always get feedback from the kids. It might be Swedish meatballs or stroganoff or spaghetti or taco night, and we just rotate through those meals. We have about 4 different sets that we use, so we have at least like kind of 4 months. But you really could just duplicate one set of meals. Also identifying your non-perishable items that you're going to need for ingredients. So if it's spaghetti noodles or spaghetti sauce, or even, you can freeze hamburger meat, you can shred cheese and freeze that, but items that you can keep for a long time, you want to identify those. And that's how you want to start building this plan. So you want to assess how quickly you'll go through an item. I'm not very good at this. I'm probably the least organized person that I know. But this is something that I want to start doing is writing the date that you purchased the item with a Sharpie. And then as soon as you're through it, you can look back and see, oh, okay, I bought it on February 21st and it took me 24 days to go through this. So how many will I need if I'm doing 3 months? Okay. And then also looking at your best buy date. My husband and I have a running joke where I'm like, you can't eat expired food. It's gonna kill you. And he's like, it's only like a week. I'm like, no, throw it out. So I'm a little crazy about that, but always look at your best buy date because it is gonna give you the most nutritional value, and you wanna make sure that you're rotating through your food accordingly. And then stock up your pantry and restock when an item is on sale, like we already said. All right, I'm not going to touch too much into this because I didn't realize our other speaker was going to talk about this, but just there are so many places that you can store your food, and for my family, we started with just our pantry that's in our kitchen, and it's a okay size. It's not huge, but it's big enough to have like a 3-month supply, and then we expanded shelves into our laundry room, which you have to be careful because of the humidity with washing and drying, but there are some items that we store there. And then we have a coat closet in our hallway by our guest bathroom that literally we never use. And so we've expanded that for like our water storage and things like that. So you can get creative. We also have our large term supply out in our garage. But for our 3-month supply, generally we're just eating out of our pantry. So there's a really great resource that I wanted to pull up for you guys today. Sister Mullen actually sent this over to me, and I think it's really good. There's a website called Food Storage Made Easy, and let's get this for you guys. Food Storage Made Easy. And they have so many steps and resources, blogs, plan it, buy it, eat it, and I just think it's a really great way to gauge where you need to start. It does not have to be overwhelming, and like I said, we started with baby steps, buying cans of an extra can of soup or an extra ground beef or whatever. We were always one step ahead until we built that out. So let's get to the spreadsheet. That's really great. I wish that was a little bit easier to see, but I don't think I can. Let me see if I can change the view. So this is the spreadsheet that comes along with from the website. That's really great, and what is so good about it is it auto-populates. I get stressed out when I have to think about numbers or like looking long-term at something. And this has been such a good way to plan our meals. So what you would do, you can look here at, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks, okay? The great thing is it's only for 1 month, and that's what you have in front of you here is just a 1 month meal plan. So starting with those baby steps, okay? So I went ahead and typed in here spaghetti, which is probably more of a dinner. But then you decide how many meals of spaghetti will you have in a month. Over in this column, in the yellow, is where you're gonna list the ingredients that you would buy. So I went ahead and listed 1 pound of ground beef. So if we were gonna purchase enough food to have spaghetti once a week, I would need 4 pounds of ground beef, 4 cans or jars of spaghetti sauce, and my kids love to have green beans with that also, and then of course spaghetti noodles. So you would plug in the quantity that you would need for 1 month here, and then it auto-populates, I'm sorry, this isn't easier, I guess I can do this, to 3 months here. So in 3 months, I would need 12 pounds of ground beef, 12 cans of spaghetti sauce or jars, 24 cans of green beans, and 12 boxes of spaghetti noodles. So it's a really, really great tool and resource to use where you can plan out your lunches, your dinners, your meals, and your snacks, and then list all of the ingredients. So a key to remember with this spreadsheet is once you input an ingredient, so ground beef, we can use that for so many different meals. Stroganoff, tacos, so many things. Meatloaf, you would only need to populate that once and then decide how many you would need for each meal. You can plug in here. Another great feature about this spreadsheet is you can also input your price and size, and it will be able to populate and tell you how much it's going to cost to get there. You can also input how many you already have. So let's say I already had 4 pounds of ground beef. I would need 8 more to make that 3 month supply work. So just a really great resource, and again, we would love for you all to be able to access this by going to foodstoragemadeeasy.net. A lot of really great tools and things here. I'm looking for my time. 16 minutes. Woo. Okay, so I did take a couple of notes that I just wanted to talk to you guys about. So sometimes I've heard this before that people worry or avoid stocking up on a 3 month supply or any kind of supply because they feel like it's hoarding. And I don't want to be a hoarder. I don't want to like have a cluttered house or like worry that like I have too much. And the point of this is not like panic shopping or shelf clearing or anything like that. But this is about taking care of your family. It's about making sure that your children are safe, or you and your spouse are safe, or even that you can help others if the time happened. So if we invest in things like fire insurance and health insurance and dental, auto insurance, renter's insurance, all those things, why would we not invest in food insurance? That's a great way to look at this. Another way to look at your 3 month supply that I like is we look at our long-term storage as like that rainy day savings account. That long-term, we don't touch it, it's just there for the future, whenever the thing is that comes that you're wanting to purchase, or that you just want to have it in a financial reserve for emergencies. But the 3 month supply should be looked at as like a checking account that has constant transactions and you're constantly trying to balance it out. So that's another way to view that as. So something that helped our family, I talked about as just like if things were on sale, we would buy an extra. We started from that point budgeting an amount that we were going to put into our 3 month supply. So typically it was somewhere around $20 to $30 extra per person. So we have 8 people in our family, and so we had to budget that excess to go towards food storage. And again, over 2 and some change years, we've been able to build that and more. A slogan that I really like is store what you eat and eat what you store. So you want to make sure that you are purchasing items that you're going to enjoy, like we talked about. So a good way to start, which again is like what we have with our spreadsheet here, is writing down those food items that you enjoy. What can your kids just not live without? Or what would you just be a total deal breaker? Like, do you have to have peanut butter? Is it ramen noodles? What is it in your pantry that you just must have should it come down to needing this 3-month supply? And then I wanted to address some food items if you're having a hard time kind of thinking about like what you might want to have in a pantry that you can shop in your home. These were some items that came to mind and that I found have really helped our family kind of stay ahead but also rotate. So pastas, Gatorade, juice, drink mixes, mac and cheese, soups for baking, canned beans, canned fruit and vegetables, broth and bouillon, which is a really great idea to stock up on that around Thanksgiving time. It goes on sale. And then my 4-year-old, he probably has a pack of ramen daily. That's his thing, and the granola, so he's probably gonna get kids, who knows. Okay, canned chicken and tuna. And so these are really great. Not only are they easy to just, you don't have to bake it, you can just add it to a meal, but the shelf life for canned chicken and tuna can also be 2 to 5 years. So it's kind of a nice way to get a leg up on that long term, but can be rotated through your short term. And then we talked about how the 3-month supply isn't necessarily like your staples. It's not like buying salt in bulk and things like that, but it's so nice to not have to worry and go to the store because you're out of salt or you're out of sugar or you're out of vanilla and things like that. So it is a good idea to be thinking, if you bake a lot or if these are items that you are rotating using, to make sure that you're looking at a 3-month supply of sugar, salt, flours, and oil. Oatmeal also came to mind, whether it's packets or it's in bulk. Rice, applesauce, and then condiments like ketchup and mustard. My kids like suck ketchup from a bottle. They put it on everything. We probably have like 8 that are lined up in our 3-month storage area in our house, and then mustard and things like pancake mix that you just add water to, or even like potatoes that you just add water to, are really great ideas to add. And there are more resources on that website that will have a great comprehensive list of items that are a great idea to have in your pantry. So I'm not going to touch a lot on this, but water is also important. For my family, I buy 4 cases of water at Costco a week, and that's how we've started to build up our water supply. And then my kids play sports, so it's being rotated. It's not just sitting there, like we are using it, and with 5 kids that are drinking water, and it's a lot. So it works out. But FEMA does recommend storing 1 gallon of water per person per day for 3 days, and Danica's going to go into the rest of that. But I would just say, encourage you to have a stockpile of water, even if it's the 3-month supply, is very important. Plus, you're going to want that if you have drink mixes and things and there's nothing to add to it, then it's kind of not even worth it. Another great idea is to look at your expiration dates every 3 months. And if you have foods that you know, I know we have 20 cans of Progresso soup that are getting ready to expire this summer. So my kids are going to be eating a lot of soup. But just so that you cut back on waste and that it saves money. So even just this last week, it was such a chaotic week. I had a lot to do with work. My husband runs a private practice, and he also works school-based. My kids have soccer and music lessons and all the things. And it was just, I did not have a moment to go grocery shopping this past week. So I used my budget to place an order with Costco to get some bulk items. But we were able to just shop our pantry. We already had everything we needed for some of the meals that we had already planned out all this time. And it was just so nice to have that peace of mind and not worry and not even have to invest the time in going to the store this past week that I just didn't have. I also wanted to quickly touch on incorporating your basic medical supplies. I don't know about you guys, but my kids have an illness every month. I don't know if it's a stomach bug or the flu or a cold or something, allergies especially. We have started making sure that if CVS has Tylenol or Motrin or whatever on sale, we'll buy an extra one so that we're always a step ahead. And usually, I think right now we have more than enough to get us through 3 months just from doing that. So again, supplies like toilet paper, soap, and particularly food for pets too. We love our pets, and they're also part of the family, and something that you should also be looking into, making sure that they have that 3-month supply of food as well. Two other items that came to mind that we've been working on are trash bags and laundry detergent. So we buy trash bags from Costco. I don't remember how many it is, but it's so much. It's a huge box, and it's really helped us to not have to run. That's another item that we would just run to the store. We're out of trash bags, gotta go to the store. So we buy those in bulk, and then you're gonna want to have clean clothes if you're stuck for 3 months. It's just nice to have that backup. I also want to touch on having a 3-month supply isn't just your pantry. It's also your freezer. So we touched a little bit on things like you can shred cheese. I would not recommend freezing blocks of cheese, but if you wanted to slice it or you wanted to shred it before you freeze it, that can last for a while as well. Yes?
I've never heard that before, and cheese is a staple for me.
Yes.
So can you buy the shredded cheese and put it
You
in
can,
the
yes, you can freeze
freezer?
shredded cheese, or you can shred blocks. We buy the hoop cheese from Costco because it's so cheap,
Yeah.
and then we just shred it and we'll throw it in the freezer.
And you just put it in a freezer bag, Ziploc bag?
You can freeze cheese. It doesn't. It's also, it's not. If you freeze a block, just from experience, from a few blocks of cheese later, it did not slice as good. It just it crumbles. The consistency is different. So. But those hoop cheeses from Costco, they last like 6 months. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of a long-term thing. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah, of course. Thanks for bringing that up. So okay, where are we here? Okay, so freezer things. So I am not the type of person that, because I said I'm the least organized person that I know. I don't freezer meal plan. Maybe some of you are really good at that. So that is an option and a great idea. But I am better at purchasing food items that I can freeze for later and then make a meal out of. So that works for me. Some things that I do is I'll buy fruit in bulk from Costco and freeze it in like gallon bags. It's way cheaper than buying like the frozen or buying, just like a small pint or something fresh from Publix or Ingles or Walmart. But I like to buy them in bulk and then freeze those, and it will last us forever. So also think of meals that you can kind of double and triple. So if you were to do like a freezer meal, think of soups that you could double or triple and then freeze. Or even like, trays of, we've done like enchiladas before in the past where we've had leftovers and we've just frozen it so we can cook it on a rainy day. Let me see if there was anything else. I think that pretty much covers what I had to share today. I just know from experience that having this foundational food storage plan is so important and really truly does help you financially. It helps give you peace of mind. And it's kind of fun. I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy planning these meals with my kids. I get joy and delight from opening my pantry and seeing that we are okay, that we are prepared, and that we aren't afraid for anything that would come our way. And we've definitely seen the blessing of having this supply over and over again, whether it's been a child in the hospital or a job loss or even just moving and having to transition to a new space where you have all those expenses of turning on utilities and all those types of things. What a blessing it's been to not worry and to have those things safely in place and in store for our family. So I'm grateful for a prophet today who leads us and guides us and who knows and who sees. And I just find that so incredibly poignant that he told a young mother to have her food storage ready. How am I doing, Carla? You're good. Okay. She said she was going to throw me the 5. I'm waiting for her to be like, Lindsay, you're done. Okay. As I was researching to present to you, I came across a couple of different resources and a particular YouTube video that talked about how families got through World War II. And it was so fascinating to watch because most of the really good foods, the dairy, and well, not the dairy, sorry, the meats, and things that were really rice and beans and things like that that needed to go overseas to our soldiers. The families had to give up so that we could feed them. And so what we had victory gardens pop up. There was canning. There were creative ways, and I was reading all of the different ways that they made it. And they would make meatloaf out of beans and flours, and it wasn't meatloaf at all. There was no meat in it at all. Sawdust was added to make certain dishes. But they found ways to supplement it and to make it work and to feed their families. And it was just such a testament to me that this is exactly what we need to be doing. It's not a doom and gloom. It's not, oh, what if this happens? Like, it is, but we should find joy in being prepared for our families. And I know that to be true. And I say that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Sisters, we want to encourage you, if you have questions, maybe jot them down, or if you have a question or comment that you would like to make about what Lindsay just presented, we've got, a few minutes, we can absolutely do that. But if you have something that you really want to talk about, you can jot down a question, but I know you're just dying to say it. What is it?
There was just a thing on television.
Speak loud so they can hear you way back there.
There was just on television a segment on expiration dates, and they have tested food 5 years past its expiration date, and it is fine. It hasn't even lost nutritional value. So your husband is right, respect it, and don't throw things away. You can open it and try it. If it's not good, throw it away.
Hold on. I have found out from my friend Wendy that oftentimes, however it is packaged, that's really what the expiration date is based off of, is the packaging, not so much the food that's in it. So play around with it. I'm kind of like Lindsay, and my kids routinely go through and they're like, Mom, this has expired. So again, it looks different for everybody. Just do what works for you.
So a thought that I had was about medication, because I don't know how many of you take medication, but usually you just get your levels is high, and then okay, you gotta come it up. A thought that I'm having is ask your doctor to give you an extra amount if you can, and so that you have extra, because how terrible would that be? You can't get your prescription, and that could be really detrimental to some people's health or lives. So
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if we can ask, our doctors, can we get just an extra,
A 3-month prescription, yes. It will. Did I see another hand over here somewhere? Somebody, yes, in the back.
My husband worked for a milk company for years, and I was shocked at how many times they would leave milk out on the dock and things like that, and I asked him about it, and we would get expired milk free. So you just have to open the containers, because sometimes before the expiration date, it's been left out on the dock too long, and you don't want to drink it anyway.
Right. Yes, we're going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to let Ms. Danica move on.
I was just gonna say, if you freeze something, remember when you take it out and use it, that it's no longer have
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
If you freeze something, remember when you take it out, it is no longer that use by date. So that's where I really love what Lindsay said about when you buy something, writing on it, absolutely. And there was one other question, yes.
So, if you have an insurance company and you hold something, and every month for a year you pick it up 7 days early, you're gonna have a supply built up. Most
Everybody
insurance
hear that?
companies will let you pick it up 7 days early, unless it's controlled.
If your prescription is coming due, most companies will let you pick it 7 days earlier than it's actually due. So that will accrue, so you really will have a little bit of a buffer. We are really grateful to have Lindsay. We were so excited to have her come. And if you have any other questions, please jot them down, because we want to get to everybody's questions or comments. But we're going to now have Ms. Danica come up, and she's going to talk to us about water. Thank you.
thank you, Lindsay. There are a couple instances in the past couple of years where I really could have used. My husband apparently likes to take vacations at the hospital, and so we've actually had to get some orders through a Relief Society president because I was completely unprepared. And thank goodness he is my breadwinner, so, you know, when he's out for a week, not only am I figuring out how I'm gonna feed my kids, but we also have bills to pay. And so I just wanna tap to, this isn't part of water storage, but I took the finance self-reliance class, and it completely changed my family's life. We are almost completely debt-free except for our house, which we went from thousands of dollars of debt. So anything that the church is putting out that can help us live abundantly and can prepare us for unforeseen situations, take advantage. And I promise, like, it will be life-changing and it will be amazing. So I'm really excited to share this with you. I will be the first time I don't have any water storage or food storage in my home. So when Joyce asked me to present, I was like, well, I guess we'll start from scratch and it'll be good. So we're gonna learn together. The important thing for me putting this together, and Joyce and I had talked about this, is food storage doesn't have to be alarming. We've already kind of touched on that. We're just preparing ourselves. There doesn't have to be fear involved. And that's what I really love about how simple it can be. And if I can get this button to work, sorry. I'll pop this up so you guys can see it. So water storage. When I think of water storage, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna need some like bottles to drink, you know? So we'll talk about why should you store water, how much do you store, because it's really gonna vary depending on the person and the family. How do you store it? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then a couple extra tips and ideas that I had. On the internet, you can really go down a rabbit hole of water storage. So I kept this super basic. So I'm sorry if you're more advanced in your water storage, but this is basically how to start and where to go. So why we should store water is that in cases of emergencies and natural disasters, it can take time for those first responders to get aid to where it is needed. You know, if there's flooding, there's no roadways, so it could take time for them to get to you. And then not only do they have to get to you, but they have to get to your whole community. So there's gonna be a really high demand for these essentials like food and water. And you can go a longer time without food, but max, really they say, is 3 days without water, and you're really gonna start to have some consequences. So it's really important for that. And then also the church, as well as other national organizations such as FEMA and the CDC, recommend having at least a 2-week supply of water stored for you and your family. That's kind of the minimum. The absolute bare minimum, you definitely want to have 3 days, but the minimum that you really want to have on hand for you and your family's needs is a 2-week minimum. So here I have just kind of a breakdown. There was a couple really good blogs, and if they're gonna send out an email, I can add those links. I can send them to the ladies to add to that email. So, water is more than just drinking, which logically I know, but also I didn't think about flushing toilets or washing laundry or bathing and stuff like that. So for drinking, they recommend that you should have 1 gallon per person per day, so you need 7 gallons a week. And then for sanitation, like flushing toilets and stuff like that, you're gonna need 2 gallons per person. And then cooking, which if you don't have water, a lot of it is gonna be, or if you don't have power, you're gonna need things that you can just add water to. It's gonna be 1 quart per person. And then sanitation is really important. Doing dishes, you can't continue to eat off of dirty dishes, so you wanna be able to wash what you're using. So you want to have 3 gallons per week for that. And then obviously laundry, general cleanup, I put those at the bottom. It kind of goes from descending order of how most important to least. So if you need to do laundry, you want to have 6 gallons per week, per week, sorry. And then your general cleanup. You just want to have you have to wash hands, you have to, especially I have 2 small children, they're constantly have dirty hands, so I need to have that extra kind of cleanup water for them. So your total per person for 1 week is 37 or more gallons, and then per day you want to have that 5 or more to have that nice buffer in there. And then obviously, Lindsay kind of touched on it, but pets. I have a big dog at home. I'm gonna have to store water for her. So you have to consider pets. You have to consider breastfeeding mothers. They're gonna need more water. The elderly or the sick, you need to kind of take into your personal account the differences that are gonna come up from just like your basic average. But this is a really good place to start. The couple of different sites that I touched on, a lot of them had this same kind of breakdown of how much you're gonna need. So for storage, there are so many different types of containers, and then I found a couple really good tips and tricks that I liked. So I broke down the containers for you, because this, for me, this is the starting point, like what am I gonna put my water in? So one of the most common things is use 2 liters, juice bottles, other food containers. One example that I came up with, I cooked spaghetti this week, and we cook spaghetti almost weekly, and we love marinara sauce, so we use big jars of it. If I wash that and like sanitize it and store water in it and do that weekly, I would have enough water for one person at the end of the month. And that's just one container, like one container that I can store it in. That doesn't include all the juice my kids drink or the water bottles we reuse. So they're essentially free. You already pay for the food that's in them. They're convenient, smaller size, so they're easier to tuck into cupboards or tuck into smaller nooks and crannies where if you don't have a ton of space. So you can put them kind of anywhere. The cons that I found are that they do have to be rotated every 6 months to a year. You have to clean them out you have to clean them out really well so that there's no risk of bacteria. And then a lot of these containers, you'll get kind of that unpleasant, kind of stale taste, so it's hard to get that cleaned out of there. But there are fixes for that issue. So for starting, this is a really great place to start because they are things that we have on hand. One thing I did want to touch on, it used to be that they would say to wash out like old milk gallons and stuff like that, but they're finding that they don't seal as well and that they degrade a lot faster. And so those are actually one of the things that they don't recommend anymore. You want a thicker BPA or plastic like that. That has a really nice tight store. And then you have store-bought water bottles. Like Lindsay said, we drink water bottles in our house. I don't know, that's just how we are. So these are really fantastic. As you can see, there's a ton of different sizes. They go all the way from 16 ounces all the way up to these, giant ones that you can buy and refill, which is really nice. So they're already treated and great tasting, so you don't have to worry about any like purifying or clarifying. They're really easy to rotate through the individual bottles, super easy to store, and they come in all of those sizes. So again, you have to make sure that you're rotating them every 6 months to a year. They can get kind of costly because it's bottled water, so you pay more for all of the purification and everything that's already done to them. And they're not great for large quantities because they are going to get bulky. Individual bottles aren't really stackable, so it is going to start to take up more room the larger your collection gets. So these ones, 5 to 6 gallon plastic jugs. I really like these because one jug is the exact amount pretty much that you need for a person per day. So that's really nice to kind of have, like, I could say, okay, husband, this is yours, this is mine, here's for, my daughter and my son. And so it's kind of broken down more easily. They're a pretty good price per gallon. These can range a lot. Every link I clicked on, there was a ton of different prices. So really just have to do your research and decide what you're comfortable spending. They're really convenient size. They're super easy to empty and to rotate. It'd be really easy to kind of slap a label on there and say, like, this is when this one was filled, and empty and rotate them out. They're very plentiful. There's a ton of them online. You can find them in camping sections. So Walmart, REI. They're really going to be easy to find locally and pick up in store. And like I said, they're perfect for holding that daily amount per person. The big thing is you really want to check your quality. Some of these, if they freeze, they'll split. So you really just want to make sure that you are getting a good quality that will be nice and sturdy. And then they are heavy, so 5 to 6 gallons of water is going to add up. So if you have to tote them up and down stairs, or you have to move them around a lot, you have to think about how portable that's going to be. So they can be pretty heavy. And then they also need to be rotated every 6 months to a year. And this option these ones aren't stackable. You can't stack them on top of one another, they'll slide around. So they will start to take up more room. So these ones are probably one of the most popular ones. A lot of the websites and blogs that I found, it was like water bricks, or there's another one that's like called aqua something. So these are great. 3.5 gallons it's a very manageable size compared to those other 6-gallon ones. And these are stackable, as you can see. So these could be stacked from the floor all the way up to the ceiling in here, and they would not go anywhere. They interlock with each other, and they are incredibly sturdy. So that's really nice. They can be stacked and tucked into corners and stuff. These, the material can freeze without breaking. So they can be stored outside if that's an option that you have to take. So they're a lot more sturdy than other options. And then they're, like I said, easy to tuck into corners and stuff like that. And then as you can see in the picture, there's a spigot, which I really like the option for that, because you don't think about how you have to get your water out of your container. It's not just pouring, so for all of your different options, you need something that's versatile. And so I really like that optional spigot is on there, because then you have many ways to dispense it, which I think is really important.
And you don't have to rotate them?
These ones, it depends on the water that you put in them, how it's treated. So there's treatments for like bigger waters and stuff like that, RVs and things like that, that can last for up to 5 years. So it just depends on the water that you are putting into them.
So if you put your faucet water in,
They would have to be rotated more in that year range, yeah.
thank you.
Absolutely. So these are a little bit more expensive because they're specially made for storing water. So of course they're gonna kind of tap into that. And they are harder to find in stores. I didn't find a lot of options to buy them in stores. It was on Amazon or through blogs that sell them and stuff like that. So they're gonna be a little bit harder to find. One of the websites I found them on, they were saying the shipping was gonna be 7 to 8 weeks. So if this is something you want, especially now, like pandemic times, it's something that you're gonna want to look into now. But again, it's not, you don't have to buy 20 water bricks and get it going. 1 or 2 of them is gonna get that ball rolling for you. So, so I added these because these are amazing for like 72-hour kits or a car kit. So I didn't really think about having a backup water storage in my car, but you never know when disasters are gonna strike. So it's actually a really good idea to have a car kit. So these are boxed and packaged. They have a 5-year shelf life on them. They're very portable, so they're awesome for those smaller areas, 72-hour kits. And the water typically doesn't freeze in these. So if you kept it in your car when our temperatures drop, especially here in South Carolina and things freeze, then you won't have that problem of the water freezing inside. Yeah.
What about heat in the summer?
So with these packagings in particular, it said they were pretty heat resistant. So that's why they recommend them for car kits and stuff like that, yeah. And that the material they use is safe and like won't leach chemicals and stuff into the water. So these are more expensive. They're very highly specialized. They're not great for ideal quantity or like for large quantities, and they're not. A lot of them, when I was looking them up, you have to buy them by the case. So you have to buy a larger case, and they're not really available locally. So it's definitely more of like a specialty option. So tips and tricks for water storage. Your containers, the biggest thing when we're filling our own water is that we have to make sure that we are FIFOing, first in, first out, that we're refilling, and they have to be emptied and then cleaned and then refilled again. So that's important. And then since you have to empty them and refill them, we want to make sure that we are marking them so we know when they were filled or when they go out, so that we can keep on top of that. Yeah?
If we say I used a juice container and emptied it out and cleaned it again, is there any risk in not lasting?
That's why they say the 6 months to a year, because of the plastic that they're using in juice containers and such like that. So really it's, I would say like the first time you fill it, just kind of keeping in mind like, okay, a year from now is probably when I should replace the bottle itself. And so, because the material now that they're using is definitely like a higher food grade. And that's why they said no, like not milk gallons and stuff like that anymore, because they're a lot thinner and not as safe. So the big thing for storing, you want to store, obviously, you don't want leakage from something getting punctured, or if something does freeze and explodes and dethaws. So you want to make sure you're putting it in a safe place. But that also means that you could store a tarp, like store it in a tarp. So if leaks do happen, then it's safe. So you just have to figure out the best way for your home and your situation. A lot of water, and especially in these containers, you have to store it away from light and heat. So, and then also freezing. Not all containers are made to be able to freeze and thaw again. And then the taste of store water can be improved. I didn't know this. So when you boil water, you get kind of that flat taste. I lived in Argentina as a missionary, and I had to boil water if we were going to drink it from the tap. And it got expensive to buy bottles, and you need a lot of it. And so I was actually in one area, it's called the agua hermana, because I had a giant water bottle that I would carry around with me so I could refill it at the church, like taps and stuff like that. They're unfiltered water. So, but it does get a taste after you boil it. And I didn't realize if you shift it between two containers, it will get that oxygen back in the water, and it helps with that taste. So that's a nice trick to use when you have to use this water. And then also flavored water drops, Kool-Aid, like packets of Kool-Aid, anything like that. You add a little tiny bit of that, and it's gonna kind of spice up that flavor and hide any unpleasant taste that it has. So filtering and purification. Does this come off? Can I stand by my screen? Is that okay? So I can point these out to you. Oh, I'm probably gonna break something. I'm sorry if I break something. Apologize in advance. So these are some of the basic options that I found were the most kind of popular when they were recommending all of these things. So this is a life straw. It would be fantastic for a 72-hour kit. These life straws can filter up to 1,000 gallons of water because they have a really fine microfilter. Kills about 99% of the germs or bacteria. You could literally walk up to a dirty puddle of water and drink through this life straw directly from that puddle, and you would have safe, clean water. So really, really good for 72-hour kits. These water bottles as well, same thing. They have 2 different filters in them. So the charcoal filter that's in them doesn't last as long, it's only 26 gallons. But it also has that microfilter that will last for about 1,000 gallons. They give these, I don't know if they do it anymore, but in the MTC, when I went to the MTC, they gave every single missionary one of these filtered water bottles. These, this is just an example of a filter. So if you're getting water from a still body where there is debris or anything in it, it has to be clarified first. So you want to put some kind of filtered cheesecloth. Was one that I read that's really good because it's really fine. So the water will run through it, but the debris will stay on top. And that's kind of the first step, is to clarify, and then after that you can purify. These water tablets, they can filter, one package does about 25 to 30 quarts of water, and just depending on how much you're doing at a time, you add the tabs, and it will purify the water in on average about 30 minutes. And then bleach. Bleach has to be completely unscented, no additives or anything like that, so you have to be aware of what bleach you are using. But bleach, a couple drops of bleach will go a really long way in purifying water and making it safe to store. So bleach is a really good thing to have on hand. One thing with the bleach is you do want to make sure, I read a lot about, you want to make sure that it's fresh, that you're not using like older stale bleach because it starts to lose its potency. So about 6 months, they said, once the bottle's open, it's only good for about 6 months to help you purify your water. Boiling, obviously, we all know about boiling water. We get boiling water advisories in South Carolina quite a bit, so you boil your water. And then this last one on the end is, they call it a backpack pump. I didn't know anything about them. They are really amazing. So that can actually filter, the life of that pump is about 500 gallons of water. So, and you just pump it directly from the water source into your, whatever you're storing it in, and it will kill most bacteria, toxins, anything like that. So those pumps are really super helpful. And they range, honestly, the cheapest one I found was like $50. So they range in a pretty good amount. So in the First Presidency, this message is from the First Presidency, and it just says, our Heavenly Father created this beautiful earth with all its abundance for our benefit and use. His purpose is to provide for our needs as we walk in faith and obedience. He has lovingly commanded us to prepare every needful thing, so that should adversity come, we may care for ourselves and our neighbors and support bishops as they care for others. So this is bigger than just your individual family. We want to be able to support ourselves. Thinking about supporting our bishops, my bishop has helped me out several times, so thinking about being able to support him is amazing, and just, our neighbors in our community. So one thing I wanted to note really super fast and then I'm done is wherever you store your tools that you're going to use to filter and purify, I would recommend either storing it with your water or in your 72-hour kit so you have access. And I think it's a really good idea to split them between the two if you have more than one way, because you never know where you're going to need it. You don't know if you'll be able to get to your big water access or if you'll have to stick with your smaller supplies. So it's good to just kind of pre-plan and think ahead. Don't put it in a corner where you think it will be safe and your kids won't get to it and then you can't find it when you need it in an emergency. So I just know that obviously this is important. It's been, inspired that we do this activity and that we learn to live abundantly and take care of ourselves. And so I think it's important to learn these things, and I'm grateful that I got to share this with you. So I say that in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you so much, Danica. Sister Giselle. Sisters, I can tell you, my sister-in-law is really big on recycling. It bothered her to buy water bottles, so when she empties her out, she dries them, and she actually stores rice in hers. So then she feels like she's not wasting and reusing her bottles.
Okay, so I'm Katie Christopherson. I have lived in South Carolina for 2 years now, so talking about how and where to store it all has been a little bit of a change. Coming from Idaho, growing up in Kansas City, South Carolina, 3 different kind of climates, so you have to know these things about how and where to store it. So, anywhere you look, the first thing they're going to say is make sure you're storing your food storage somewhere that's cool, dry, and dark. I think it's been mentioned before about sunlight, how that can destroy it. So one of the first things, if you're going to spend all the money on your food storage, you want to make sure that it's not going to go bad. Because if that happens, you waste money, you're in a situation, and you could have bad food. So some of the typical places to store your food is a garage. Unfortunately, a lot of our garages might get way too hot, or there might be a lot of sunlight. Not everyone's garage is like that. I know some people have insulated garages, or if you are living in an area that does not get as hot, it will work. A basement. Growing up in Kansas City, we had a basement, so it was great. That's where our food storage was. It was out of the way. Unfortunately, I don't think basements are as common in South Carolina. I know they do exist, but unfortunately, we don't all have basements. A big pantry, that's another go-to, but a lot of us, we don't have big pantries. And then some people can use attics, but again, our attic, it's already too hot up there. So not a good place if they are not cool, dry, or dark. So we are going to talk about some strategies of where else you can store food storage, because as we're learning, it's very important. Don't use the excuse you don't have anywhere to put it or not enough room. So this one is obvious, under your bed. So it might not be where you want to store it because you like things to be very organized, and food under there does not sound like the best idea, but one day you can be very, very grateful. So there's different kinds of extremes you can go to. Like in the picture in the corner, they are using the 5-gallon buckets, and they don't have a box frame. They're actually using that. They might have, I don't know, a piece of plywood, but the mattress is on those. Underneath your bed, you can use the rolling containers. This one I don't think has wheels on it, but for cans, because then if it gets heavy, it's easy to pull out. And it's one of those things, if I've thought about what do we have under our beds, kids' toys, and it's one of those things, can I relocate those toys to the garage because I'm not gonna store stuff in our garage because it gets too hot. I know under our bedroom, underneath our bed, that's where we keep all of, some of it, not all of it, but toilet paper, paper towels, because it fits perfectly underneath there. We've moved the typical pictures, documents that we used to have under our bed, we've moved that up to the attic. So relocating things is a great way, and you can store food underneath your bed. Closets are probably one of my favorite ways to create space. When we moved to South Carolina, it was 3 weeks before everything with COVID exploded. And when we moved from Idaho, we got rid of 90% of our food storage. We just gave it to family because traveling across the country with food storage just wasn't gonna work. So when everything happened, one of the first things is my mom called me, what are you doing to prepare for this? Like, have you been to the stores? You have to stock up. And my thought was, we're in this short-term apartment, I don't have anywhere to store food. And being a mom, she says, I don't care if it's in the middle of your living room, you need to go get stuff. So I did, I got some things, and I couldn't have it in the middle of our living room, so we used our hall closet, and it was amazing. You realize how much dead space you have when you are looking for places to store food. So we used our coat closet, and we stacked up cans. I just bought the cases, and it was amazing how much could fit in there. Also, this idea, because if you're in an apartment and you can't install shelves or anything, an over-the-door hanger, a shoe organizer, they're inexpensive. You can put spices, you can put beans. This is probably like dehydrated cans or something here. Another picture is you can install shelves over the door. That's a closet that they have, and they install that shelf. And they put things. The only thing you need to be aware of, if you are installing those shelves, make sure you don't put cans up there, because that would not be fun if a can fell on you. Or you can even install a bar that will keep things in place. Yeah, so shelves, great spots. Just reload. I think you said earlier, you use one of your closets, because that's if you have a lot of closets, you can move everything into one and try to make a closet a food storage area. Oh, I also said use the space in your deep shelves. Sorry, a lot of shelves are really deep, and so you'll have stuff in the front, but do you actually have things behind it? That's what we've done. Again, when we were in our apartment, the closet in our bathroom, we bought soaps and stuff and just had a bunch behind it, if that makes sense. So here's an example of a closet. We probably have had or have a closet that's not very organized. So if you can organize a closet, how much space it will create. Like I saw this one in all of the medicine. My thought was if you get some kind of basket bucket, how you could put all those in there and it would open up the shelf halfway, and then you could put extra medicine, again, soaps, bathroom items. So, laundry rooms. You do have to be very aware of the ventilation for your laundry room. We used our laundry room when we were in our apartments because it had great ventilation. Our current laundry room, I would not put food in there because it gets so much moisture, but that's where you can use other items like your paper goods, toilet paper, first aid supplies, things that aren't going to be damaged by the moisture or the heat. This picture, was a little bit, if you wanted to go to that step, they installed those shelves completely around the laundry room, even the third shelf. In that picture, it doesn't have items, but I watched this video of it, and they had that top shelf completely stocked with toilet paper and paper towels. So, great location to store things as well. So, crawl spaces are under your floorboards. This is, again, I'm not sure as common as it is here in South Carolina, but I know crawl spaces in Idaho, a lot of people would use them. Our current home, we cannot use our crawl space because the water that gets there. So again, you have to evaluate your home, figure it out, because our next door neighbor, I have not been in their crawl space, but I've seen it open at times. They have tons of stuff in their crawl space. So their house, probably why we get all the water, because it all rushes into ours. But it's amazing because they have tons of totes. Like when they have it open, I'm guessing they have holiday supplies, decor. but it is great. If you have a crawl space that can fit things in it, great way. I know my parents' home, their floorboards, they keep things underneath it. It's very, in Idaho, very dry, so they keep tons of their food storage in their crawl space. But again, make sure you're protecting food, bugs, rodents, putting things in the proper containers, which we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Under your sink. So, picture on the right, I have to tell you, didn't have this originally in it, but yesterday I was cleaning my bathroom, or my son's bathroom with him, and when I opened up underneath his sink, I asked him, I'm like, what is up with all this water? And he looked at me, completely serious. He goes, well, I'm just preparing for World War III or the zombie apocalypse. I'm gonna be ready. I died inside. I mean, I kept it very straight, like, oh, that's awesome, because I didn't, want to laugh at him being embarrassed or anything. But it is so funny to me because we talk about food storage, but we are not trying to worry our 9-year-old about things. But he has picked up on enough hints that he needs to prepare. So those aren't even the water bottles that we bought. Those are water bottles that he drank, the Gatorade that he drank, and then he filled them up, and he's keeping it underneath his sink for things. So, but when you look at that picture, you see the stuff on the bottom, but how much dead space is in there. So if you buy drawers, you can buy shelves, or you can even install your own shelf. That is, again, more space that you can put things in. I would not have cleaning supplies and water you're going to drink or food in the same cabinet. Like I said, I didn't know he had water in there. But again, relocate. If you have multiple bathrooms, have all your cleaning supplies in one bathroom underneath the sink, and then use the other sink to store things. So here are some unique locations. A buried chest freezer. You have a freezer that is no longer working, or if you see one on the side of the road, you could use an old freezer and bury it underground, and you could have barrels in there, different things. There are lots of people that have done that. A buried barrel, again, I don't know in South Carolina if you can do this as well because of how hot and moist it gets, but I know people that will use those barrels and they will put vegetables, beets, potatoes in there, and they will last a lot longer than otherwise.
Either of those work under in your crawl space. A lot of people do that in your crawl space, so when you dig down and put it in your barrels down there.
I am glad someone knows that, because again, being new to this area, I didn't know if it would work, so that is awesome. Window wells, again, if you have a basement, if you have like a walkout window well, I know people have used that to store things. Suitcases, another big one. How many of us have empty suitcases in our closets under our beds? Why aren't we putting things inside of that? That's where you could put your toilet paper or your paper towels.
Can I just
Yes.
be careful about putting paper products in your bathrooms where the
Moisture.
sink is? Because if you have a leak, oh, that's gone.
Yeah, very true. Once again, you have to be very prepared of what could happen, the moisture, the heat, temperatures. The other thing I saw this idea, inside decor. How many of us are using cute baskets, cute vases around as decor? And have you ever thought you could put some beans in there, like a bag of beans? You use we're gonna talk about the Mylar bag later, but put that kind of stuff. And it sounds extreme, and why in the world would I do that? But if it came to a situation that you don't have a place to store it, there is a solution. I had a previous, she was in our religious study presidency, and it was so funny. I remember going to her house for a wedding. This was in Idaho. And she used the tops of her cabinets in her kitchen, all of the food that she had been canning. She had it staged so cute. It was all this decor, but she told us, she's like, no, that's part of my food storage. And how she used it as a decoration because she had the farmhouse kind of theme, and it looked great. And the other thing was bookshelves. You have bookshelves, again, if they're very deep shelves and you have books on them, could you be putting cans behind those books? Here are two other things. I did lots of reading, And it said behind your couch. If you have your couch up against your wall, you could pull it out 6 to 12 inches and you could be putting boxes, these are probably the cans in there. You could put decorative pillows, decorative throws over it, and people would not even know. The other thing, this is a pricier thing, but if you bought a sofa table, your sofa table's in between the wall and the sofa, what is inside of the sofa table? You could have cans, whatever you wanted to put in there. And then beneath the stairs, that is, a lot of people will have a closet underneath their stairs, but some people they don't, and it's just dead space. So it's a little bit more of a crafty item you have to do, but if you installed a door, some sort, to get in there, it doesn't have to be, this one is finished underneath your stairs, but it doesn't have to be finished. You could easily just have stuff thrown in there, so. Okay, so one of the most important things though, if you're having to do this, if you do not have a designated area for your food storage and you have it throughout your home, you have to keep track of where you have it. Unless you have a great memory, which I will admit I do not, I would forget where things are, where I put them. So make sure you have some sort, we talked about an inventory, so that's great, but also have some sort of document, what you have, where you have it, when you bought it. And then you need to make sure that you're keeping track of those things, rotating it. I know we're lucky we turned in a big closet into a larger pantry. And I have an Excel document, and every time I take something out of that, I just mark off, instead of 12 cans of chili, I now have 11. And then doing this growing up, my parents, they did every 6 months, which was every conference weekend. They updated their Excel document, they did another inventory, what we needed, etc. Okay, so we already kind of touched on it, but we're gonna go into a little bit more detail about what can ruin our food storage. So the sunlight, heat, moisture, and then obviously rodents and bugs. So what do we have to do when we buy things, how we store them? So a lot of those basic pantry essentials like flour, beans, rice, pasta, oats, unfortunately, they can already have eggs, different bugs, which is disgusting to think about, but unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. So one of the best things to do is if you freeze a product for at least 24 hours, it kills everything, which I did not know this. But that's pretty simple. You buy some flour, throw it in your freezer for a day or two. The only thing is if you buy a ton at once, unless you have a chest freezer, I'm not sure you're gonna do that, but find a way, you break it up, because the last thing you want is if in a couple years you open up some flour and there's, some type of bug in there. So to help with these things, there are different kinds of containers we can get. So we're gonna start with canned food, because that is a great way to start. It's more of the short term, but we were talking about how long things are good for. And I found this quote, it was actually from the CFA, which is the Canned Food Alliance. And they said, canned food has a shelf life of at least 2 years. Canned food retains its safety and nutritional value well beyond 2 years. It may have some variation in quality, such as a change of color and texture. In fact, canned food has had an almost indefinite shelf life at moderate temperatures. Canned food as old as 100 years have been found in sunken ships, and it is still microbiologically safe. We don't recommend keeping canned food for 100 years, but if the can is intact, it is edible. Rust or dents do not affect the contents of the can as long as the can does not have a leak. If the can is leaking, or if the ends are bulged, the food should not be used. So, take what you want with that quote. If you want to throw it out after 2 years, that is completely fine too. But canned food is very inexpensive, easy to rotate, easy to store. I know that has been our go-to because easy to use. Go ahead.
It has liquid in it too that adds to your water storage.
Yep, that's what I was going to say, the water included. That is another, if you're out of water because you didn't do any prepare, if you have dehydrated beans, you are going to be eating dehydrated beans. Versus a can of beans, you open it up, it's ready to go, and you can eat it. So. Okay, the other big thing was the 5-gallon buckets. That is a little bit more for long-term. You can store the bulk items. They're reusable, they're very easy to find. You can find them at stores, online, almost every store has them. You do need to make sure that it has a number 2 stamped inside or the recycling symbol on it, because some of the plastic that's made for buckets, you don't want to store food in. But yeah.
Make sure the lids are strong on those. You can buy them and the lids are really thin and they break easy. I've had several of them that I go out that broke. So just make sure that you're getting a higher quality that is in store long term.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you recommend, or does anyone recommend opening up those long-term buckets that have been sealed, like to have wheat in them, to see if there's any bugs in them?
I don't think that you should, because if it's sealed properly, once you broke it, it's no longer good for that long life. So it's again, it's a chance you're gonna take, and we're gonna go into a couple extra things you can do to protect things.
I use my plastic buckets a little bit differently. I bought some empty ones and I like to buy my flour and sugar, just the regular size things. I stick those in plastic Ziploc bags and then put them in my bucket so it's easy to store. I can make that very easy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Had something in buckets for a long time, you see my check. You can't open it because oxygen absorbers in there.
Yep, we're gonna talk about oxygen absorbers, yeah, so you can help us with that. Yes, helps prolong things. The thing about the cost with the buckets, it's that initial cost, but you can actually at times find these for free. So I'm not sure around here if there's go-to places, but I know sometimes like bakeries, different kind of like locations, like they will throw their things out. So that's where you kind of just have to hear word of mouth. The water, the 55-gallon drums in Idaho where I lived, we had a Coca-Cola factory very close to us, and I mean everyone knew it was one of those word of mouth. If you would go there, they would sell you their used buckets for $9. So it was a steal, and you had to clean them out really well because it had soda or whatever in it, and it was sealed properly again. Yes.
Firehouse Subs will sell their pickle buckets for $3 a bucket, and that goes to charity. And those 5-gallon bags, I have the buckets, I have a lot of, and they have a good thick plastic seal. You just have to let it air out to get the vinegar smell out of it, or put baking soda in it, but you can get that smell out of it. I've done it. I do it all the time.
Did you guys hear that? Firehouse Subs.
$3 a bucket.
I haven't gotten this in a long time. They used to be able to get them for free, like at a dozen places, because they're frosting.
Frosting, that is what I read. Frosting is where they would throw them away. That's another thing I read is bay leaves. Is that correct? I had it in my notes somewhere. If you put that in the 5-gallon tubs with whatever product, it will keep bugs hate the smell of it. So another way to protect your food. I saw a couple hands.
Check your school lunch cafeteria. I don't know if they still have those big buckets of mayonnaise and things like that, but.
I know it might be kind of, you don't want to ask people like, hey, will you give this to me for free? Because you could go buy them, but still,
They
why?
would be able to sell them at school lunch.
They would just give them. But why not save a little money? I know those 55-gallon barrels, they're expensive on Amazon. And all we had to buy some fancy way to open up the lid. But other than that, another hand?
There's a place on Road 29 that sells brand new food storage grade 55-gallon buckets. We got some on here for $50, and it had a nice screw on the lid.
Yeah.
They're available around.
Awesome. Yes.
I know in Spartanburg County, Clemson Extension Office, usually twice a year, they do a rain barrel class. And you go in and get a free 55-gallon rain barrel, and it has the attachment, which you can attach it to your spout, and, you can use that to water your garden.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Awesome. Okay, so the 5-gallon buckets are different types of the food grade plastic buckets. That's almost like your first barrier. So then there's other things you can do to prolong the life of whatever food you're storing in there. Food liners, which Mylar bags are great, and oxygen absorbers. I read about the Mylar bags. Make sure if you're using them, put them in a 5-gallon bucket because rodents can chew through them. So don't, buy all these Mylar bags, start putting things in them, put them on your shelf because a rodent could easily chew through that. But it's a great way. You can get them in different sizes. So similar to you were saying plastic bags, but I know people, you can buy like gallon size Mylar bags. You seal them and you can put them in your 5-gallon. So then when you want to take one out, put it in your daily flour, you still have the other ones that are sealed. The oxygen absorbers, another, it's like the third way to extend the life. I did read though, and I don't know if this is accurate, but do not put the oxygen absorbers in your sugar or your salt because it will make it clump and make it hard as rock. I don't, anyone can, is that true? Yes, okay, that is true. So, again, those little facts, people who don't know that much, I would have put one in there. But yeah, the oxygen absorbers, it'll prolong your life of food even longer, and it stops the growth of mold because unfortunately, you can do all these things and you might still open up a bucket and it's ruined. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but these are, like I said, almost just the different levels of protecting your food.
A friend of mine does not like the smell of bacon, so he puts a cinnamon stick in his flour. And stuff.
That's good to know.
And it does the same thing.
Okay, we are almost out of time, so we're gonna go through glass canning jars. Another, it's that initial cost might be a lot, but they're reusable, and if you have your own garden, great. And that's why I put Casey, because I've had a lot of stuff from canned jars, and it is so good. It might be a little bit harder to store. Glass terrifies me, probably because of having little kids. Yeah. But the initial cost, great way to use that.
Can I say something super quick?
Yes.
I've done this. Go to yard sales, go to thrift shops, you can usually get them for a quarter or 50 cents, and you're not paying full price, just put them in the dishwasher and clean them.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
No, you're fine. Last, I think this is the last one, was the number 10 cans. They are a little bit pricier, but you buy it, and it goes right on the shelf, and it is good for 30 years. So, again, more expensive, but it's very easy. These pictures are from the, I don't even know what it's called. I know, we called it the cannery growing up. The home food storage. It's through the church, so it's inexpensive. I'll get to you in a sec. The shipping cost is very inexpensive. The issue I know still is they are out of stock of a lot of items, but there are so many different companies you can buy the number 10 cans.
I just wanted to say that I didn't know, but I didn't know when I moved here. We stored some of these in our shed for 2 years, and actually some of them, the moisture got into them from the humidity in the summer. So your road is still
Yes.
out of humidity.
Yep. That was I can't think of the word, but yeah. If they are stored properly, they are good for 30 years. But again, the humidity, the heat, sun, those are the negative things.
What she said, I couldn't hear what
She said they had bought some when they first moved here and they put them in their shed outside, but after 2 years, the humidity had gotten to it. So it was,
Absolutely can, but still.
yeah. I don't know if this is true in Columbia. Well, in Columbia, you might be able to get them cheaper if you actually go there versus when you order them online. Okay, quick thing, just pricing. So we talked about these different things. So the one on the far right, that is from the church's food storage. You have to buy them, so those are the number 10 cans, so they're probably, doesn't mean they're 10 pounds or anything, but it comes in a box of 6. Doing the calculations of it all, it's about 30 cents a serving, which the serving we did was half a cup.
I'm pretty sure it's still the same, but if you order stuff from the church, no matter how much you order, it's one shipping price.
Yes.
Whether everybody got together and bought a big huge truckload that they bring and you could distribute, or if you order your own order, it's like $3.50 or $6.50.
That's, I read $3, $3.50.
Yes.
I remember you said 3, so under $4 shipping for as much as you need. So this is another company I've heard people rave about it. They love the fruits, the dehydrated, but that is $1.77 a serving or $1.68 if you bought a case of 10. So that is a big difference. Those are like the exact same things, but again, the food storage through the church, does not have as many options right now because they are still out of stock. So, but then looking at those cans, that is Aldi, is the Dakota's Pride, and the black beans from Walmart. That ends up being 19 cents a serving. But again, it doesn't have the 30 years this is good for. So that's where you have to make your own personal decision. So that is Thrive Life. So.
Isn't it 30 years until you open it?
30 years, yes, until you open it. That is the one thing. So that is again why I use a lot of cans, because we're constantly going through them. But last thing is start small. Yes, I see this picture. That is perfect. If you had a nice walk-in room just for your food storage, and you know, the more expensive 30-year cans, that would be great. But it might not be realistic. It's not realistic for me right now. So start small. Don't get overwhelmed with the cost. We've heard it. Go buy a couple cans. Start somewhere. If you don't have somewhere to put it, you can make room in a closet or under your bed. So last thing is the hoarding mentality is what you feel like you might be doing. I'm hoarding all of this stuff. But would you not rather listen to the prophet and be a hoarder for food for just a little while, and then you will be ready. So, and I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
This has been so awesome. Thank you very much. Really appreciate all our presenters. I'm just going to do a little bit of closing remark, or a little bit of wrap up stuff here. I did want to mention water storage. In my house, I have a 100-gallon water heater. So if you don't discount all that water that's in your water heater, because it has a little spigot on the bottom and you drain water out of it and use it. So just a thought. You'd already have some water storage in your house if you have a hot water heater that's not the instant hot things. So just wanted to add that real quick. And while we're, okay, a lot of stuff. We know we can't even begin to scratch the surface of all the things we need to prepare for. So throughout this year, we are going to do continuing education. Every other month, look for a video link in your email, and we are going to do a little YouTube video on different topics, preparedness topics throughout the year, and then send the video out so that we don't all have to come together in a meeting. And you can watch it whenever. And this meeting has been recorded, if I did it right. I'm a dinosaur, so maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. And we'll put this meeting out just like we did the last meeting we had in January. So look for that coming. But I do want to ask, while we're all here together, what are some things that you would like to see us do in these continuing education classes? We are going to do gardening probably in May, but what are some other things that you all would benefit from?
My granddaughter would like to learn how to can.
Canning. Okay. I'm going to write down as you shout them out. Anybody else?
Learning to identify edible plants.
Ooh, edible plants, okay.
Medicinal plants.
Just off the mic.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Just shout some out here. I mean,
I was thinking about graining. I don't have a grainer or something to grain.
grains.
Yeah.
How to use grains, okay. You need a grinder and everything, yes. Sister Libby, I saw your hand.
Well, do we have, a machine that grinds up our things?
We used to, it's gone.
We had a nice hand grinder, if anybody knows where it went.
We're missing the steak hand grinder, so if anybody knows where it is. Okay. Okay, we do have a Mylar sealer that the steak has, but it must be used here in the building. We cannot let it go out of the building. So, okay, see some hands over here. Ooh, I don't think we have a can
We do
sealer.
not.
No.
Which ward?
Spartanburg second. Very good. Okay, Sister Watson. Ooh, dehydrating, okay.
The sister in the pink in the back, I know you had had.
This isn't a suggestion, but twice a year, Greenville County has a CERT class, it's a citizen preparedness class, where they go through all sorts of emergencies and first aid and all of that. And it's a really, really good class. And it's free and it's twice a year. And you win in the spring and the fall, you just have to sign up.
Yes, Spartanburg does too. I think most of our local counties have the CERT classes that you can take. They are very, very good. And I know several years ago, I think they even offered them at our church building for our board members. Okay, back here.
Estate planning and living will.
Oh, estate planning. Very good.
Sister Rouse? Sprouting.
And you can have those as green instead of,
Perfect.
Sprout.
Jeannie?
I think we should have a class on alternatives, so you don't have buttermilk. What can you use?
Oh, okay.
Substitutions and.
Substitutions, yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, just skills.
Different skills, okay.
Perfect. Oh, that's very good. Soaps and things.
cooking without electricity.
Oh, yes.
Awesome, these are great ideas.
I bought all my boys a small solar, battery, I mean, that you can charge your cell phone with and everything, and it's solar. Very neat.
Okay, Sister Thomas.
Meal planning from scratch.
Oh, yes. That's a good one.
We may have to do this for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then,
Arms and ammunition.
because we may have to hunt, that's an okay.
Debbie?
Things about herbs and how to use them, for them and use them for medical.
Growing them and using herbs.
And making them into medicine.
Okay, that's a very good start, and I appreciate all your input.
I might say, I've always been really big on food storage and we at least have supply.
Talk louder.
I've always been really big on food storage, and even when I became a member of the church, my parents lived that way, so I kind of inherited that way of thinking. But I recently became celiac, so I'm in this real crunch to save differently and replace stuff that I have that I can no longer use.
Right.
So, I don't know if anybody else has special dietary needs or working on those kind of things. Maybe a small class for special needs dietary.
Okay, that is a good one, because I know the celiac is a lot more common these days. Well, thank you so much, sisters. We will take that into account. I just wanted to mention, we have some handouts over here on the side. One of which is the list of what you can get from the church distribution center. You can order it online. The whole list is really economical, ships right to your door. Very good. We have enough of these for everybody to take one, or you just take a picture of it with your phone, but you can also find it online. We also found a 52-week food storage list for $10 or less a week. So that's over there if you would like to pick that up, get some ideas about how to spend just a little bit of money and get a good supply of food in. If you are in Greenville County and have a library card, they give away free seeds at the Berea branch. You just have to go there. Okay, Spartanburg County, thank you, Spartanburg County. Okay, so Spartanburg and Greenville counties, find the branch. 10 packs per visit. You just show your library card, and they have a list of seeds. You tell them what you want, and they'll give it to you for free. really good resource. We have this pamphlet over there, just a few, and I think we can find this online as well. The church pamphlet about how to get started with food storage. It's really good. And everybody should have gotten this, was on the table. We have one for everybody. This packet of information is really good. We will send this in an email too. I have a few over there, or you can take a picture with your phone, but I did want to point out that in here is the planting guide for South Carolina. We are the Piedmont area up here, and it tells you all the different vegetables and when to plant, the time frame to plant. And we have a lot of fall crops we can do, so this is really good. It tells you when to plant spring and when to plant fall. So take a picture of it. There are a few over there, and we'll email it out also. So I just wanted to point that out. In the back for our refreshments today, we have homemade breads. And I just wanted to thank specifically our bread committee today. Sister Lane Kennedy spearheaded gathering all the sisters to make bread for us. I want to thank Mercedes Moss, Linda Harper, Jennifer Miskin, Kelly Zank, Sherry Palmer, Courtney Gordon, Monica Shively, Linda Harper, Marianne Sinati, and Anna Marie Spackman. And we do have, so thank you, sisters. And there are several, 2 or 3, gluten-free options back there. And the recipes are laid out on the table. Take a picture with your phone, and I will also email those recipes to you. And last but not least, if there's something you really want to know about soon, come ask us. We could probably point you to a sister or family in our state who has resources that could help you individually. So don't feel overwhelmed, don't feel alone. We have lots of wonderful resources in our state. Just come ask, and we might be able to point you to someone who could help you sooner rather than later. So I think that's all I have. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate everybody being here today.
Wow, you guys are amazing. You have so much knowledge. Part of what we really want to do is to make sure that that knowledge is available to everybody. So sisters, as you come across things that are interesting, that you think we would like to know, shoot us an email, okay? Let us know these things. We want to help you guys as much as we can. I'm so grateful that we were able to do this today. I hope you all feel that your day has been edifying. We, like Mary Beth said, we're going to be continuing this, and to be quite honest, with as much interest as we have, this might be something we might continue maybe even next year. We'll see. We have asked Sister Kirby if she will give us our closing prayer and a blessing on the food. We thought it was appropriate that we would have bread and water. So we are going to have Sister Kirby come up and give us that prayer. And thank you very much for coming.
Dear gracious and loving Heavenly Father, how blessed we are to have your protection and grace to be with us. We're so grateful, dear Heavenly Father, for the knowledge that we have received today, the knowledge that thou hast prepared for us through all these beautiful sisters and all the skills that are in this room together as a sisterhood, that we can enrich and bless each other and lift each other to be prepared and have our families be prepared for whatever emergency that might become upon us. We're so grateful, dear Heavenly Father, for the opportunity of attending thy church, for knowing the plan of salvation, for living the plan of salvation, and for sharing the plan of salvation with our neighbors and our friends and our family. We're so blessed and grateful with thy love and thy protection and thy guidance. We're so blessed to have the prophet, President Nelson, to lead us and guide us in these troubled times. May we listen to his guidance and act upon what he has asked us to do. I am so grateful, dear Heavenly Father, for all that thou hast shown us this day. And we ask that we will leave with safety and joy. And we say these, and we ask also, dear Heavenly Father, that thou will bless the refreshments to nourish us and strengthen us so that we may carry on and do the work that thou would have us do. And we say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.